Giddy up.
What's up, Doc?
Good. How you guys doing?
All right, all right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, Dr.SHIVA is running for the Oval Office. As a matter of fact, he is out there. The GOP. Well, he can actually break it down a little bit more. It doesn't look like the GOP is recognizing him right now, but that doesn't mean that he's still not talking and trying to raise funds and stuff like that to run. I heard him in the spaces a couple of weeks ago, and I mean he put forth some talking points that I had never heard before, but a whole lot of common sense that came with it. And he's been out of the country, and I'm glad he's back. So, doctor, let's talk. You are still running for.
Yes. So Wayne, this, some of you may know, I ran for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts as a Republican against Elizabeth Warren. Some of you may know in 2018, the slogan was "Only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian," which was a very great slogan. And
that was awesome.
And then in 2020, I decided to run as a Republican, and we were the ones, in my Republican primary. We had 3,000 volunteers on the ground. We raised $2 million in a Republican primary in Massachusetts. And by all accounts, we won that election. But the Republicans in Massachusetts colluded with the Democrats to literally steal our election. And that led to my putting on my MIT hat as an engineer, doing all the analysis, which went viral before all the Trump stuff took place. But in the presidential election, I'm running as an independent. And the reason I decided to do that was because, you guys may know I have a bunch of degrees from MIT, and I started recognizing that there's a very, very powerful graph that you'll find up on our site on shivaforpresident.com. It's a very interesting graph that goes from 1980 till today. And there are two lines on that graph. One line is a straight line going like this, which is a life expectancy average of all the industrialized nations. And it's going like a 45-degree angle. There's another red line on that graph, which is a life expectancy that's of the United States population since 1980. And the line goes like this, okay? So if you have a child today, your child's life expectancy is going to be lower than yours. So just think about what I'm saying. And this is not because of the vaccine stuff that just occurred with the pandemic and all that, which I came out against. I came out against lockdowns and all of that in 2020. By the way, Booby effing Kennedy, as I call him, was promoting lockdowns. Trump was promoting lockdowns, okay? But the point was, as a scientist, I knew something was really wrong. But if you look at that graph, it fundamentally reveals that we need a systems overhaul. Because since 1980, whether it was Republican, Reagan, or Democrat, or Obama, or Bush, or Trump, or anyone, the overall network of policies, be it Obamacare, be it the environmental toxins, be it the stress that the average family now endures, is destroying the lifespan of the average American. So just let's consider that. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But that one key performance indicator, if you want to use the Harvard Business School terms, right, of life expectancy reveals the fact that both wings of the establishment for the last 70 years have destroyed the American public, literally destroyed life expectancy. And it's not any one issue. It's a systemic issue. It's a network of issues. The average American today has $400 in their bank account on a rainy day. So people are under incredible stress to basically survive. And as a MIT trained systems biologist, a guy not only created the first email system, but I created the technology that can literally map out molecular pathways in the body. What I can tell you is a policy affects your biology. Let me give you an example. When they did lockdowns, a policy, that affected different molecular pathways in your body. It affected inflammation in your body. It affected oxidative stress. It affected mitochondrial respiration. What do I mean by that? It means that it actually aged you, okay? It destroyed your immune system. Stress, as you know, cortisol affects the immune system. So the policies that are being made by these, whatever you want to call them in Washington, are directly affecting people's biology. I call it policy to biology. Now, a guy like me, who's an engineering systems guy who studies engineering, studies biology, can see this blatantly. that a particular policy has affected people's physiology. And when you really get a handle on this, you really probably should get really angry at what's been going on in this country. But Democrats and Republicans have destroyed the life expectancy. So, and this is what happens when we keep voting for the lesser of two evils. The lesser of two evils is basically destroying your children. So that's why, Wayne, I decided to run as an independent, because both major establishment parties are essentially one uniparty. And even if they throw out some of these guys, and we'll talk about, they literally steal my talking points and mimic it, because they essentially want to suck people back into the establishment. And this guy, I call him Vivek the Snake, is an example of that. He's a freaking snake. If you really look at him, he went to Harvard on a biology degree and then got a Yale law degree. And look at what he did. I'll give you the example, talking on this topic on healthcare. A company called GSK, a big pharma company, Big Pharma, created a drug for supposedly helping Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. They created this drug which failed 4 clinical trials. That's pretty hard to do. It failed 4 clinical trials. So it's a dead drug. This, I don't even know how many 4-letter words I want to use them to describe this fellow, created a company that went and bought that drug for $5 million, a failed drug. All right. And then he had his mother, who was part of the small company, take one of the clinical trials, and it's called a completer analysis. So he took one of the failed trials, threw out all the people who didn't complete the clinical trial, which means they probably had adverse effects, and repositioned the drug as a success. All right. Oh. And did an IPO on it, took it public on billions of dollars of valuation, sold his equity in the company, made $50 million, and then delayed the final clinical trial, knowing it was to fail for about a year to 2 years. And then you see the stock tank. Now, that means this guy doesn't care anything about actually solving a problem. It was all about a financial engineering, abuse these patients. And this is the kind of people we want running for president of the United States. It's a scumbag. And you take Booby effing Kennedy, another guy who talks a big game, but go look at his tweets. He was promoting lockdowns in 2020, while I, in March of 2020, were running demonstrations against lockdowns. I did scientific papers exposing why the mask mandates were wrong. And in 2019, so you have to really look at these people's history, because where we are right now, Wayne, we're at a very important point in political history and technology where people are literally watching what sound bites work. They reuse those sound bites over here, and they want people to have amnesia about their history. I mean, this freaking Vivek the Snake was promoting mask mandates. And they asked him, how come you promoted mask mandates? Oh, he goes, at the time I was being anti-establishment because Fauci was against masks. So I decided to be pro-masks. I mean, the level of duplicity of these people. So if you look at my history, I grew up in India in what is called a caste system. We were considered the lowest caste, not the Brahmins, which is where he comes from, for example. So I had to understand fight the injustice of the caste system as a 4-year-old kid. I learned about traditional systems of medicine from my grandmother. So when I came to the United States when I was 7 years old, I knew all the opportunities America had to offer. So by the time I was 14, I invented the first email system. Went to MIT. Didn't just fake my degrees, actually got 4 degrees, won every award at MIT. So I've always had to bust my ass, not like I didn't come from some cabal or some clique. Right, and it's about time that we have actual people who are real Americans and real Indians, bottoms up people. None of these people are bottoms up, Wayne. None of them. They're all top down. They all come from the cabal. And what's really, really disgusting about them is they literally are mouthing words that completely contradict their actions. And so that's why, I decided to run. And the good thing is, we've mobilized a movement which is educating hundreds of thousands of people across the world. It's called Truth, Freedom, and Health. We teach people the interconnection between the movements for freedom and truth and health. Without freedom, you can't do great science to get to truth. And without truth and freedom, you don't know what's good for your health. And if you're unhealthy, you don't have the wherewithal, the mental or the physical health to fight for freedom or health. So the movement for truth, freedom, and health is literally the operating system of my run for president. And if you go look on social media, you will, and that's why I appreciate you, Wayne, for having me on. You will see all the other grifters, be it, I can't curse on here, right? No?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fucker Carlson, okay? I call him Fucker Carlson, right? Or Joe Rogan, all right? Or the idiot, Russell Brand. None of, even though they follow me, will never put me on their show because they're all part of this media, this neo-media cabal. That is essentially.
Well, you know what? The way that I look at them are, and I don't know why the conservative movement or used to be conservative movement. I don't know why they have fallen into the Pied Piper type of thing where.
There you said it. I mean, Hutch said it. Money. It's money. It's money, Wayne.
If you have a name, then and that name comes out with keywords that you use in your everyday lexicon, then that follows you to them. It's like, oh, they're telling the truth. And all they're doing is just grabbing you or for their audience, and they really don't care. I've never seen what's the one that you just
Fucker Carlson?
No, the other one.
Joe Rogan.
I never seen Russell Brand doing any outreach or talking any conservatism on the ground or nothing. I've never seen him do that, but as long as they have a podcast, they can sit behind a mic and say, we need to go to war. And the next day they're right back in front of their, did y'all go? Did you go? You know what I'm saying? Hutch, you got a question, or JR, you got a question?
I do. I I was totally unprepared for your opening statement, Doctor. It was wonderful. But it's going to cause my question to change. Now that's fascinating when you do that life expectancy study. I mean, that's really something that we used to talk about on this show. And again, I'll go back to it's money. Why do we have food that has 75 ingredients and it's like rice and it's 75 ingredients? What is the Food and Drug Administration? Why are those two entities in the same agency? I mean, it makes me wonder, are they developing this food so we'll become future pharma customers?
Yeah, it's called, in fact, there's a new term that they call it food, PHOOD. I don't know if you've heard this term, where pharmaceuticals and foods are being integrated together. Okay, that's what's actually going on. Yeah. So the bottom line is this, okay, that there's a revolving door between academia and these government institutions. So the guy who's the head of the department, let's say neurology at Harvard, may one day be in the FDA, and then he helps his buddies. I'll give you an example. There's this prick. His name is David Sinclair. He's a professor at Harvard. He is a prick. Let me tell you why. He does aging research. There's a very interesting supplement called NMN, which is a form of B vitamin, which has amazing effects on mitochondrial respiration. It's really an anti-aging supplement. It comes in certain foods, okay? But anyway, this guy knows it works. He then went to the FDA and got it made into a drug, and then had the FDA take it off the shelves. I used to take it regularly, okay? You can't get it on Amazon anymore. So what they're doing is they're finding nutrients that work and they're making them into drugs. So it becomes very expensive for ordinary people to get. And then they're taking drugs, which actually hurt people and pushing them. You say, but this is happening because you have scumbags who are coming from the elites. I mean, what does this guy, I mean, if what does Jared Kushner know really about everyday people? What does Ivanka Trump know about everyday people? What does this guy Ramaswamy know about everyday people? At the end of the day, these people do not represent us. And so that is why, if you look back at the history of the United States, or for that matter, the world, anything that has substantially changed has been through bottoms-up movements. I mean, you'll see me, Wayne. I don't have my flyer here, but you'll see me on the ground. I have a one-page flyer. I'll be out at the train station today, handing it out to thousands of people. I believe we need to build a ground movement. I've always been a ground activist. So I know that a guy like me, they actively make me invisible now. You know, in 2020, we got about 500 million people who knew about our movement. I was the guy who exposed the backdoor portal to Twitter in our historic lawsuit. We're the ones who found out in federal court, where I represented myself, that the government has an unholy alliance with social media companies. It was called a partner support portal. We told fucker Carlson about it and Glenn Greenwald, that dweeb, and none of them covered it. They waited 2 years to amplify this bogus limited hangout called the Twitter files. And they actually concealed our lawsuit for 2 years. You see, these guys are part of this swarm, as I call it. They delay truth. To your point, Wayne, they wait to the sound bites when it's convenient for put it out. And Hutch, to your point, to make money. They don't want to fucking change the world. These guys,
Doctor,
what's that?
I was going to say, you bring up an interesting point, and just to kind of summarize, like, you grew up in India in the caste system,
and in New Jersey, and at working class towns in Patterson, in Newark.
Right, but no, I'm saying is you understand the elites versus the plebs.
At a very
it
deep
goes
level.
back to the Roman times, and that's what we're living in today. People just don't realize it. They distract us with left versus right when it's really the power class versus the normal folks, as we call them around here. And so I think we're all aligned with that. So let's say you get elected president and you look at the members of Congress, and we believe a vast majority of them are corrupt and are not serving our purposes. That's one of the things we talk a lot about on the show. So if you had to name off like 5 or 10 true Americans serving in the Congress that you would form bridges with to help try to change the country, who would those people be?
None of them. Look, none of them. Let me tell you why.
So every single one.
We need a systems overhaul. All of these people, every single one of them. Let me give you an example of that. On November 16th, 2018, CISA was signed into law, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. On December, in December of 1791, what happened, right? We passed something called the First Amendment, which said Congress shall pass no law to abridge freedom of speech. Congress shall pass no law to abridge freedom of speech. I'll repeat that again. Congress, the legislative branch, will pass no law to abridge freedom of speech. One of the most foundational principles of humanity. That's what made America so powerful, because you had, for the first time in human history, today even though the First Amendment on social media is destroyed, that 3% of humanity has this ability to speak freely against their government. Well, on November 16, 2018, Trump signed into law CISA. Congress passed a law to bridge freedom of speech. And that was unanimously, J-Rob, unanimously voted by every person in the House, and unanimous consent by Senate. All these people are scumbags because they destroyed the First Amendment. They all did that. So that's why we need a systems overhaul, because if you look at these policies, your child's life expectancy is going to be lower than you. How did we get here? Right. So they don't, none of these people, the only people I trust are you, Hutch, Wayne, you, everyday working people who have to get up in the morning, do a job, and they come from nothing, and we've had to, Jared Kushner, what the fuck does he know about anything? What does Ivanka Trump know? Why the fuck were these people even in the goddamn White House? And Trump talked about draining the swamp. He brought the swamp in. Right? He never got rid of Fauci. He claimed he had big brass balls. Well, if you're going in there to be a revolutionary, then be a fucking revolutionary. Don't go in there and say, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. And all these MAGA cult people, look what they've done, right? To your point, Wayne, I was the one who exposed the entire backdoor portal. When they put me back on Twitter, they thought I was going to be a good, house slave, as Malcolm X would say, and bow down to Musk. The first tweet I put out when I got back on December 2022, after 2 years of being thrown off for exposing the backdoor portal, was I said, hey, Elon, why don't you make me your CEO? Well, that went viral. It got 20 million views. Every day after that, I said, Elon, are you going to take down the backdoor portal? My views went from 500,000 views a day to 300,000. Now it's about 5,000 views. So you make me back into I wasn't willing to be a house slave, right? I'm still a field slave. Right. But all the other house slaves, Robert Kennedy promoting, Booby Kennedy promoting and fighting censorship. Everyone, Dinesh D'Souza, that little rat, promotes him. Right. All these conservatives start promoting Musk, James Woods included.
I know. I'm one of those that from the beginning, I didn't fall for that. I didn't fall on my knees and start praising Elon Christ. I didn't do it because I watched and I was like, everybody, all of y'all are coming out here and saying that he's all this and all that. I was like, but he hadn't fixed it. He hadn't fixed anything yet.
The backdoor portal is this, Wayne. The government backdoor portal into Twitter is fully operational for government to launder censorship. It's in our lawsuit. We discovered it. It's black and white. So here you have Dinesh D'Souza, supposedly a conservative, bowing down to Musk. And I lost 20% of my quote unquote conservative followers for bashing Musk. But then he appoints that woman, Yacarino, from WEF. And then people start saying, oh, Dr. Shiva, we're so sorry. You know, we stopped following you. These are the same things I did when I expose Fauci, you see? So you have the woke conservatives and you have the woke liberals. Yeah. They're all the same ilk because they're trying to look for a leader from above. They do not want to do the hard work building a bottoms-up movement. There you go. And then you have morons like Russell Brand, you know, who thinks he's a guru, talks a bunch of shit. So you have all these fake idols right now. Right. That's why I call the swarm.
So what's your quick 60-second take on Joe Biden?
He's a complete moron. Come on. I mean, he just has bad PR, right? He doesn't know how to cover up his nonsense, right? But, you know, Jared Kushner just has better PR, right? He took $2 billion from the Saudis, right? Interest-free loan, basically. Yeah. And Hunter Biden just doesn't have, you know, he does the same thing, but in a fucked up way. So you have to understand that it doesn't matter. You know, it's like you have one mobster fighting another mobster. And why the fuck do we care if Trump gets indicted or not? Let them all get indicted. It has nothing to do with working people. But to your point, J-Rob, is fundamentally what we have is we have a caste system in the United States now. And it's a multiracial global caste system. So you throw in Jared Kushner, you have Musk, who comes from apartheid South Africa. You bring in this Brahmin Ramaswamy from India, right? They're a multiracial caste system. And so my parents left the caste system of India, but now we have a global caste system. And you and I are not part of it. And what they fear is someone like me who comes from below exposing them. And that's why if you look on social media, people will hit Joe Rogan. Hey, Joe Rogan, how come you don't have Dr. Shiva on? So the invisibility they do to me is going to backfire on them. And that's why Wayne and Hutch and J-Rob, I appreciate you guys having me on, because ultimately the independent news, like what we're doing right here, is going to win. Because the more they make a guy like me with all my degrees from MIT, I've won every one of their establishment awards. You know, I've fought, I have my credentials, my, you know, veteran stripes, you know, exposing Fauci, exposing the backdoor portal, exposing election fraud in 2020 when it mattered. I didn't wait like all of these doctors 2 years later writing books and doing movies after, you know, the house was burned down. So I think we're at a very important time that it's going to separate the wheat from the chaff. And, you know, they have some random guy now doing songs talking as though he's like the next Hank Williams or the Woody Guthrie, right? So they are finding more and more people to mimic the real fighters, to make sure people get suckered back in to the establishment. It's a very, very interesting process that they're doing right now.
Let me ask you one more thing while we got you here, because I read some things that you were advocating for. I want to see if I'm on the right track here. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've been taking a regimen of about 1,600 milligrams of liposomal vitamin C. I just wonder if that sounds good to you.
Yeah. So if you go look at March 23rd of 2020, I wrote a letter to Trump. It said economic and immune health for America. I said, do not shut down the country. I said, I'm one of the leading guys in the world on the immune system. I had just given a prestige lecture at the National Science Foundation. Marla Maples, his ex-wife, delivered that letter to him. And I got a call from the White House. And I said, look, do not shut down the country. There's no reason to lock down the country. In fact, Hutch, I laid out a protocol. I said, for the people who have COVID, fine, quarantine them. For the people who have pre-existing conditions, give them, 100,000 IUs of vitamin D, 400,000 IUs of vitamin A, quercetin and zinc. I laid it all out. These are proven methodologies, and people in the ICU add to that 100 grams of vitamin C delivered as IV. Again, all of these are known, thousands and thousands of papers to work. Still today, I get emails from people saying, Dr. Shiva, thank you. Well, Trump didn't do it, but the reality is vitamin C is a very powerful immune modulator, right? It stops the cytokine storm. One of the things we need to educate people on, when you get whatever it is, a virus or fungus, something exogenous coming into you, that is not eating you up. It's not like a horror movie where the virus enters and bleeds your lungs out, right? Or bleeds your heart out or your lungs out, right? The reality is it is many of these viruses go to different parts of your body. They like a home. Ebola likes to go to your endothelial in the heart, right? The coronavirus likes to go to your epithelial in your lungs. And what they're doing is they test your immune system. If people's immune systems are weak, the body overreacts. It's like driving across a pothole with no shock absorbers, right? But if your immune system is strong, you feel it, you get a little sniffles, and you get stronger.
I haven't been sick since then, and I smoked for 45 years.
Yeah, but I'm saying, so because you've been taking some of these supplements, ideally you get them from the sun and foods, right? But we can't because of what they've done to the soil. But if you supplement yourself, your body's immune system is strong, and you immunomodulate. It's like you go over that pothole, you have nice, good shocks, and you go through them. So the idea is boosting the immune system. So it's not about pro-vax or anti-vax. We have to go to the systemic issue. What are we doing to support people's immune system? And, I do a lot of aging research, but if you look at the immune system and aging, they're very closely connected. If you want to live long, have a strong immune system. If you want to live short, destroy your immune system. And they don't want to talk about that, which means by design, they want to kill people early. That's the only logical conclusion you come to. So,
or they want you on a pharmaceutical instead of.
Yes. Or they want you on a pharmaceutical and milk you, or take vitamins like this guy Sinclair has done and make it into a pharmaceutical. So you can't even get, and that's what the danger is. But the point is
hydroxychloroquine.
Exactly. And you go down the list of things. So we live in a very important time that if you use health as a fundamental the indicator of how well a society is doing, we're not doing that good. And it's Republicans and Democrats, left and right, and we have to go back and we have to build a bottoms up movement, and that's why we're doing this. And Wayne, I'd love to come back on Wednesday or Thursday. That sounds great.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shiva, for joining us.
That was awesome.
And, thank you, guys.
And I know not everybody is going to agree with everything you said, but that's why we record these things. People can go back and they can do their own research and find out and like, wait, okay, well, he did say that, he did say that too, especially when they research it and they find out on their own. So they can find you at shivaforpresident.com.
Yeah, they can go to shivaforpresident.com. You can go there and volunteer. We got to get on the ballot in every state. We're doing it all bottoms up. But they can also go to truthfreedomhealth.com. And we've created really a university for people to learn the science of systems. I used to teach it at MIT. Brzezinski, Kissinger, all the elites learned system science. And it is what they use to control people. But my view is like Prometheus bringing fire to the world. We want to bring that knowledge to everyone. We've educated now about 300,000 people all over the world. But the idea is we need to create bottoms up leaders. It can't be based on looking above for some savior to come anymore. It's not going to happen. In fact, that's going to enslave us even worse.
That's what I think too. You know what? We look forward to bringing you back. Don't go too far. Don't go out the country again. I'm back here for good.
All
Okay.
right.
We